All right, what is up, guys? We are just going live on another episode of the Connect Run Club podcast, Q&A with Coach Trey, the September, I don't even know what the date is, edition.
15th. It's my wife's birthday, so I better not forget that.
That would be very bad.
That'd be very bad.
Yeah, your birthdays and your anniversary dates are really funny when you remember, like, oh, no.
Yep. I put it on the calendar. I put a reminder just to make sure.
That's good.
Just to make sure.
I think this is episode 110, maybe 109. After you get like 80, you just kind of stop paying attention.
Something.
Yeah, just look at the number. It's right in front of you. But anyway, so these are a lot of fun for us to do. And we are actually live over on Crowdcast. If you guys are watching this on Facebook, really, if you're watching this on Facebook, there should be a link inside of our group. Come over and hang out with us and ask some questions if you guys got them. But for a lot of you guys, you are listening to the replay. And so we are going to dive in to this week. We're doing a little throwback today. We've got some actual news articles we're going to talk about. We used to do like a monthly news podcast, if you guys listen to that back in the day. And that was a lot of fun to do. And then we started doing the Q&A. So this is kind of melding it together because a lot of these topics we know we have a lot of folks talking about. So, and if you guys are jumping in live with us, let us know that you're here and where you are calling in from. And Trey, we're going to start off with one of our first, actually not the news. We're going to go into an episode that just came out yesterday or on Tuesday. And this was with Scott Douglas, who wrote Running with Meb.
You know what it was?
I think I said like Meb for Mortals or Running or
something like that.
I'm going to look it up while we're talking about it.
I'm confused.
But anyway, he was a co-author with a book about Meb, and he's followed kind of Meb's career.
Yep.
But I thought before we get into it, were there any takeaways that you had that you think would apply to kind of your everyday runner when
definitely.
they look at Meb and his history?
Yeah, definitely. I thought there were two that kind of jump off the page immediately. I think number one to me is consistency. In not ignoring the daily things, not ignoring the strength training, not ignoring the stretching, not ignoring the little things that a lot of times we have a hard time relating that directly to our running. But those things is what has kept Meb at the top of his game for so long. I mean, if you just look at his last performance, he finished, 7 or 8 minutes behind the winner, and he stopped to get sick at his stomach, I think, 7 or 8 times. I mean, I can't even imagine that. And he's doing push-ups at the finish line. So I think his consistency is phenomenal. But I think even more so than that, which was a pleasant surprise that we talked to him about as well, was probably his mind and his positive thinking. And it's not positive thinking as in, I'm just thinking everything's rosy here, but it's knowing that, hey, I'm prepared for everything, and knowing that, hey, I may have to readjust my goals or readjust my setting, but he knows how to respond to things. And it's like the day of, even though the race didn't go exactly what he wanted, he didn't let it get the best of him because
this is the marathon.
This is the marathon.
What happened for folks that may not know?
Well, starting, I think it was just over halfway, he stopped and he put his head between his legs, and I mean, he started getting sick, and he did that 7 or 8 times throughout the race. And but the amazing thing to me is I've been there and I've had the stomach problems, and I tell you what, convincing yourself that you're going to be okay, convincing yourself and keeping a positive mental attitude, that's the most ridiculously hard thing I've ever been through.
Yeah.
We've both suffered in marathons, and I think that is the thing. It's not even, to me, it's not even as much mental toughness as it is about something else, readjusting your goals and kind of recalibrating a little bit and saying, hey, this is what my new goal is, and I'm just going to try to do this. So, because it's very easy when things are not going to go your way. It's very easy to really struggle with that mentally and not know where to go. So I think looking at his positive mental attitude, and again, not some kind of false junk out there, but seriously recalibrating and saying, hey, this is my new goal for now, and knowing that he's got layered goals throughout the race. And I think it's what keeps you excited, what keeps you motivated to get to the finish line. So I think those were the two things that really stood out to me. And I think probably lastly was just knowing what a great ambassador he is for running, not just here in the United States, but just running in general. What a tremendous ambassador he is, and so it was a lot of fun to be able to get to know him. So is that Meb for Mortals? Yeah, that is it.
Yeah, Meb for Mortals is the name of the book. Yeah, and Scott Douglas, who is on our podcast, he is a senior editor over at Runner's World, so he had lots of great work that he does, but specifically he wrote a book about Meb, and we thought that was a pretty fun one. So check that out. I believe that was 109. We had that go out this week. So
sure was.
Good stuff. All right. So as always, we always like to plug our Facebook group for the Connect Run Club. Yeah. Just look up Connect Run Club on Facebook or go to connectrunclub.com/Facebook and you'll check it out. We do a survey each week, and this week's survey, it's kind of theme appropriate. And that is, we kind of asked the group if you were to run one of the marathon majors. So let me get these right. Boston Marathon, New York Marathon,
New York,
Chicago, Berlin, London,
and
Tokyo. If you could only run one of those, let's say you have never run any of you've run any of them, right? Okay. So if you could only pick one of them, which one would it be?
But that is tough.
And then take out like qualifying. So let's say like you could qualify for Boston, or you could get in. You could get into any of them. Which one would you do?
That's a really good. There's so many. London has such history, and the course is so fast. The same thing for Berlin. Those two are intriguing. I've always wanted to go to Tokyo, so that one to me would be really neat. A part of you always says, hey, I would love to be able to qualify and run Boston. Right. And I would. And then Chicago I can't think of a better place to go to eat after than Chicago. So nice flat course. But here's the thing. New York has been on my radar since before I was running marathons. That was the first marathon besides the Olympic marathon in 1984. It was the first one that I really started watching on a routine basis and loved watching. I can tell you everything about the course. I can tell you everything about the race. I have grown up on that race, and I was supposed to run it the year Hurricane Sandy hit, and I didn't get to run it. And so that one to me is still the one. And I know a lot of people are like, I can't believe you'd pass up Boston over that. And there's something about that marathon to me that has always stood out there that I've always wanted. I don't have a good reason for it, but I guess it's one that has always been in the back of my mind that I'm like, I've wanted to do that one so badly. So if I only had one to do, to me, it would be New York. I know most people probably say Boston, but for me, it'd be New York.
Yeah, and actually so far, Boston is winning. It's number one right now, with London is the next one. So winning international travel, and then New York is coming in third. I would say New York too for me, just from the being able to run around all the boroughs and stuff. So.
I mean, I'm with you there because there's no better way to see a city than on your feet, and it's easy in New York to not be able to get around. So to be able to see that incredible city over 26.2 miles, that's just, I wouldn't even care what my time is. I just want to take it all in and just look at it. It's just got to be amazing to run that city. Yeah,
New York would be a ton of fun. Yep. So if you guys are hanging out with us live, let us know in the comments which one would you guys like to do.
Absolutely.
And would you prefer? One question I think we may ask one time for you with Boston.
Yep.
Is it as big of a deal to actually run Boston, or is it just to say that you've qualified for Boston? Like, how much of it is actually running the course versus just saying, hey, I've qualified for Boston? I could have run.
Yeah, that's hard to answer because to me there's so much history on that course.
Yeah.
It would leave a sour taste in my mouth if I qualified but didn't run it, because I want to run it because of the history, but I also want to earn my way there. I don't want to get in because of charity. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's perfectly great to get in with charity because you have to raise a significant amount of money. But for me personally, I want to have run one of the most historical courses ever in existence, and I want to know that every step I earned my way there. And so
that's good.
It's hard to answer that, but it would definitely be tough to swallow knowing that you qualified but you didn't get in. That's tough. That's tough.
And that actually leads us to one of our first questions. So we're going to kind of jump around news and questions on the fly here. And let me find it real quick before we start talking about it. All right, so this is actually coming from Carolyn Laddish. If I pronounce your name wrong or right. She says, inside of the group, she asks, do any of you know the details of how the Boston Marathon picks runners? I qualified by only 2 minutes, 15 seconds. First off, congrats. And I think that was like last weekend at the time of this recording.
Yep.
That means that I don't get to apply until week 2. Do they put all age groups into one pool, or do they select a number of runners in each age group? I'm thinking there won't be as many in my age group, or does it matter? So no, you've kind of looked into the Boston qualifying process. Yep. And so just because you set a Boston qualifying time doesn't mean you've actually qualified for Boston,
no,
which is crazy.
Not at all. It is. And it really spiked over even, I'd say the probably last 5 or 6 years, it has gotten harder and harder to get in. And I hate to bring up a sore subject, but especially since the bombing, the Boston Marathon bombing, it has become even harder because more and more people have wanted to get in. But it got so difficult that I think getting in was just so challenging. I don't remember. I think they had some website issues. I mean, and it was just horrible. So what they have done is registration now is over. Now, some of this I'm not entirely sure about, but I think it's over at least a week, maybe a couple of weeks. And what they do is the better qualifying time you have, the better chance you have of getting in. So from my understanding, it has nothing to do with age groups. They don't set aside an age group or anything. It kind of evens out. So they don't try and say, hey, we've got to have this many 40-year-olds, this many 20-year-olds. They don't do it that way. But if the first number, I believe, is 20 minutes. If you qualify, if you beat your qualifying time by 20 minutes or more, you're given, I think, 2 days to register. And then I think after that, it's 10 minutes. So if you beat it by 10 minutes or more, then the next 2 days of registration are for you. Then I think after that, it is 5 minutes. And then I think after that, it's a little bit of a free-for-all, but you're just because you entered, from my understanding, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get in. It is not done by when you do it. It is done by your time. Gotcha. So it's not first come, first serve. It is by time. I do have a little bit of hope for you. If I'm not mistaken, last year, I think it was 90 seconds was the time, a minute and 30 seconds. That now, year to year, that doesn't mean anything. But at 2 minutes and 15 seconds, I think you've got a pretty decent shot to get in. You never know. Kind of the magic number I always look for is 5 minutes. I've heard if you can get 5 minutes, then you're pretty much guaranteed entry. So I do think you've got a pretty good shot of getting in, but it won't have anything to do with your age group. It is truly, no matter whether you're 65 or 25, it's truly going to be by how much time you're able to qualify by. So that's the reason it is a strange thing now. If you're used to, back in the day, you actually had some time in the bank. So if your time was 2:25, actually, I think it was like 59 seconds. You could run a 2:25.59 and qualify. Oh, really? And then it was kind of, hey, you're free for all at registration, but they have since changed that to reward people who are smoking the time and beating it by 20 minutes or so.
That's good. So, yeah, let us know, Carolyn, if you got in, and any of the rest of you guys, if you have qualified, let us know what your time was. And
absolutely.
What year you ran it. We'd love to know. So, good stuff. All right, so we're going to kind of stick with the large marathons right now. And so this was an article that I saw pop up actually today over at Runner's World. I'll read kind of the intro for you guys if you're listening and you can't read. But this is coming from New York City Marathon. They said the lawsuit settlement will affect price of entry in New York City. It says on Friday, the New York Runners, the organization of the New York City Marathon, agreed to settle a lawsuit filed by 2 Utah runners that maintained the event's general entry drawing violations. The New York State, the event's general entry drawing violates the New York City State Constitution or New York State Constitution. Issue the fees of up to $11 per year incurred by runners who matched the marathon's lottery between 2010 and 2015. And so they're basically saying that they're agreeing to pay out $2.1 million to those of you that had to pay a fee just to put your name into the lottery. And I thought this was interesting because they're saying they're basically going to pay it back out between like $1.50 up to $11 from 2010 to 2015. And Trey, you actually are one of these. So you could be getting paid money by the New York City marathon.
If I get paid $1.25, just got to figure out what I'm going to do with it. I guess I could put it in savings or something like that. But yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to get. That's really interesting. I always thought that was quite the business plan when you think about how many tens of thousands of runners are putting their name in the lottery for New York each and every year. I thought, wow, this is an organization that's getting millions of dollars just by saying, hey, we'll let you pre-register, we'll let you enter the lottery for our event. So this has been a long time coming. There's been a lot of smoke with this for several years. I know this has gone back for several years. So yeah, it's interesting that this came up now. I'm glad that you saw this, because this was one that doesn't always sit well with people. I really didn't care. I didn't really think anything of it. I'm like, I guess it's just the price of entry. I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, it's really interesting that this finally came to a head.
Yeah, and basically the New York City Marathon, they're like, all right, we can't do this anymore, so we are going to up the price to entry. So they're saying the prices, I don't know if it's this year or going into next year, they're going to hike them up kind of to compensate for the fact they're losing this revenue coming in.
It is already expensive. I think the year I did it, it was $265 was the entry fee, something like that.
Yeah. So one of my favorite podcasts to listen to is Freakonomics.
Yep.
And so Stephen Dubner and Levitt, forget his first name. Remember they talked about, but they just had an episode about Uber and like how the Uber prices, like the spiking in Uber prices, like they've never had like economic data, supply and demand, like actual like research, like quite to that scale. So this almost makes me wonder. It'd be fun to look at like supply and demand just on like registration prices, like how they fluctuate and stuff.
Yeah.
Because like on their end, it's like, hey, a lot of people want to do it, so we're just going to keep hiking the money up. Versus kind of what Boston does is they just keep dropping the qualifying times down to not let as many people in. But New York, you have to qualify for, right? You have to have a certain time?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
It's a both and.
It's just all price.
Yeah. Now, here's what they've done. The qualifying standards are pretty tough. So if you think Boston's is tough, New York, because you can qualify with a half marathon in New York.
Yeah.
But it is a fast half marathon time. So New York qualifying standards are not easy. They're extremely difficult. And in fact, I think sometimes I need to look and see, but when I was running it in the past, it was more difficult. But they reserve a certain amount for that. They reserve a certain amount for, I think, members who are in the New York Road Runners Association, kind of like the track club does. Yeah. But it's not guaranteed entry in it's pretty much guaranteed entry in the track club. But so it's something similar. And then the rest of it is either fundraising. You can do it via fundraising, or you can also do it via lottery. So there are a few different ways to get in, but lottery has certainly been one of those. So.
Yeah. Braden is chiming in. He's saying they are faster than Boston. He thinks so.
Because I remember they've increased that like the half. I used the half time to qualify the first time I got in, and then they increased it by like 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm not getting younger, so that's going to be a problem.
All right, so we're going to jump into, we got one more news article, and this was one that I kind of saw bouncing around a lot, and I dropped it into the comments this week in the group. This had to do with the 1500 Paralympic final. I'm not going to read anything to you because I just butchered the New York one, so I'm just going to say what I read. So basically, if I had it right, 4 of the top finishers at the Paralympics this week in the 1500 were faster than the gold medal, like straight up, at the Olympics. And these were, I forget what T number it was, like T40 or whatever. Yeah. But they were like blind or partially blind. So they didn't have, they weren't amputees or anything like that.
Yep.
And so the question popping around was like, all right, we just have 4 of these guys running. Why are they not running in the Olympics? Yeah. And so I know we talked about it earlier this week and you had some good thoughts on it.
Yeah, and it's really hard to compare, especially in these championship events. Because typically in an Olympic race, nobody in that 1500 meter final, especially in the Olympics, nobody's shooting for a world record. Right. It is all about big race strategy. So now look, there are some events that these guys will go to and they are absolutely trying to throw down their fastest time where they need a qualifying standard. But in the Olympics, it doesn't matter whether they run it in 3:30 or whether they run it in 7 minutes. They don't care. They just want the gold medal. And so it's all about strategy. So it really is. Now, here's what I don't want. I don't want to downplay the amazing times that these guys ran. So goodness gracious, it is mind-boggling the times they ran. But it really is hard to compare race to race because even Centrowitz in the men's race, there was a point where he knew, hey, this pace is way too slow for me to win this race. So on lap number 3, he started to stretch out because he knew, hey, this is not playing into my hands. Yeah. And so championship races are really, really sketchy. Same thing from the 10,000 meters to 5,000 meters. It has really nothing to do with time. It has more to do with everyone just trying to win that race. And each person has a different strategy. You will see, sometimes you'll see a runner go out in the 5,000 or 10,000 and be like, hey, the only way I can win today is to push the pace.
Right.
So it really varies, but that's the difficult thing. It's not like, and it can be even that way on the 400 or the 200. It's not they're going to let up, but there are some races they really don't care about their time. It really is just a championship race, and in championship races, they're not really concerned about time.
Would there be any track races, like if you saw time faster, you'd be like, all right, this guy should have been at the Olympics, like in the 100, like if someone ran faster than Usain Bolt, you'd be like, why are they not?
Oh yeah, something like that. But it also depends on the. It also depends on the kind of their classification and so forth.
Yeah.
It is difficult. It's very, very difficult,
Yeah, it's crazy because we've got a friend, Jared Wallace, who actually lives in Athens, who was running in the 100. I don't know if he's already run. I know something happened in the hurdles with him recently, but he's real quick, but especially at the a little bit longer distances, you'd almost talk about these guys have advantages because they have like less mass that they're having to turn over.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of crazy, like they're disabled, quote unquote, but like really they've got advantages over just normal folks too, which is
and I remember seeing an article, and I don't know how I feel about it. This is not an opinion, but I remember seeing an article about an ultra runner who is missing both feet and running on prosthetics, and there were a lot of people who, not a lot, but there were some people who were like, hey, it's not great because they don't have to feel the same things that I feel, and they don't have to feel anything, and I'm like, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough to say that because that it wasn't their idea to have a handicap. So it's challenging because I'm like, hey, well, they have their own challenges because part of my challenge, if I don't have feet, if I have feet, I can feel my footing and I can feel step by step. And when you don't, how do you know? How do you know if you're slipping? How do you know where your foot's landing? So it's really tough to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different controversies, especially with the whole testosterone thing, the gender thing, and it's just it can be messy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's like he doesn't have feet. Like the guy does not have a leg, so I'm going to say he's probably not going to be. Yeah. But it does get nuts when you think about the gender and the doping. Like, say you do run faster with these prosthetic legs, like how, like at what point would our Olympians like, all right, I'm going to like cut off these portions and put like robot legs and all that. Like at what point, does it stop? So where's the definition? So
because like if you look at was it Semenya Castor, I think was her name. She's from South Africa, and she's the one who you can do your own research on it, but
the high testosterone.
And it's I don't have the answer for that. You know what I mean? There are a lot of people who say that, well, it's not a man, it's a woman. All I know is it's confusing. She's fast.
Yeah.
And so, it's messy, and sometimes there's these blurred lines in track and field, especially where it's just messy.
Yeah.
I don't have
this almost throws back to our doping podcast we had. Was it a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. Yep.
Basically, hey, this stuff's been happening for all the whole time. This is something we always have to deal with.
And I don't know if you know, but our good friend kind of plugged the podcast that another podcast he was on the other day, and he talked about the book Spitting in the Soup. Mario was talking about this in his newsletter this week.
Okay, cool.
So it was interesting because we talked about Mario right after we did that podcast, and so he was even talking about. He even recommended that you get the book. Mario was like, definitely gives you kind of background of where the cheating came from, how it began. Yeah. And so he was plugging the book too this week. So
yeah, it's good stuff. So check back in the archives. I'm going to say that's 106 and 108, but I just pulled that off the top of my head. So, but they're just a few episodes back. All right, so we're going to dive into some questions. Again, if you guys are listening to us live, feel free if you just click the ask a question or suggest a topic. And if you guys are listening to us on Facebook, make sure you come over to Crowdcast and do that. And for all of you listening to the replay, you can't ask your question, but you can tweet it.
You can ask a question, you just won't get an answer.
Yeah, we won't answer it live. All right, so this one's coming from Jeff LeBlanc. He says, all right, so Jeff asks, has anyone had luck mixing their gel in water? Taking a whole packet at once upsets my stomach, and taking little sips off it seems to work, but it's difficult to hold and hold a gel open for extended periods of time while running. What are your thoughts on this? Should I just dump it out, put it in bottled water? What should I do? So how do you handle gels?
Yeah, I'm Jeff. I'm kind of with you. All the sugar in the gels mess with my stomach. I'm getting ready to tell you something, and I don't even know the science behind it because it's been so long since I heard it that I don't even recall the reason behind it. But one recommendation I had heard was to put the gel in your mouth and don't swallow it immediately. Hold it for like 30 or 40 seconds.
That sounds disgusting.
It's not as bad.
Really?
The hard part is the breathing part. You know, because you're trying to breathe through your nose. But
just the gel consistency, I can't get over. Like,
yeah,
it just tastes. It's just
the sugar, the instant sugar hitting my stomach has always been the problem. Now I don't know what products you are or not willing to use, and there were a couple of products that I know are out there in the market. One of them that I use, and I mean, I'm not trying to plug anybody, but Generation UCAN. I used something similar last year. Instead of making a drink out of it, I actually made a gel out of it. So I made it really thick, and then I put it in the refrigerator overnight, and then I put it in a Ziploc bag, and I made a gel out of it. And that's all natural stuff in it, so it doesn't have the same sugars that anything else does. That one worked wonders for me, but don't think that you have to just take a gel. I would test it and find whatever else could tend to work for you. So that could be regular food. Our boy down in Florida, I always forget his name. Denny. Yeah, Denny Cray. He takes a lot of natural food. I know he's a big fan of citrus fruits. He'll put some oranges and some citrus fruits in a bag and take them with him. There are other people who will do the bananas, people who will do like stinger waffles. So don't feel like gels is the only thing that works. There are other options out there. I've got another good friend of mine who he puts gummy worms in his pocket. And I'm like, yeah, that works for you. Then take those. So
we had Tailwind on.
We had Tailwind.
And they talked specifically about stomach issues is kind of where it came from. So
absolutely.
If you look back in our archives, you'll find Tailwind Nutrition. It's a husband and wife team. So
yep. There you go. So that would be something I would recommend. Try some different stuff. Try some stuff without all of the sugar, though. That would be my recommendation because sugar is what's going to mess with your stomach. So
I love the sugar.
Sugar's good.
I'll stop and drink a Coke. Was it Hal Higdon or Bart Yasso or Ambi? It was one of those older guys. It was probably Hal. Was talking about back in the day, they would do defizzed Coke. Was like the drink on the course. I mean, just straight sugar.
Oh, you go run an ultra marathon and there's Coke everywhere.
Really? Is it defizzed? Do you have like the carbonation and stuff? Because you don't.
It's in there. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they just pour it right there. Of course, it's usually sitting out for a while, so it's not too bad. But I tell you what, halfway through an ultra marathon, just give me a 2 liter. I'll just carry it. Put that in my Camelback instead.
Yeah.
Little Coke.
If you guys are hanging out with us live, let us know what's the weirdest thing you've eaten during a race. Doesn't have to be a marathon, could be a 5K. So
that's a good idea.
Let us know, and Trey will share his answer at some point. All right, so we got a couple more questions. How are we on time? All right, we're good. So this is coming from Kyla Van Boven. She says, I strained my calf last Sunday and missed a week of running to let it heal. I did some cross training on the elliptical and bike to keep it at least some of my cardio. I'm considering taking another week off, possibly even cross-training, and really let it heal, but I'm afraid this will impact on my race goals. I have 8 weeks until my next half marathon with a goal pace of 8 minutes per mile. Should I take a week off? So to kind of make this broad, how do you balance your race goals versus hurting yourself even further? Like how do you balance injuries during the training process?
Take time off.
Take time off.
It's not even close. Not even close. Because here's the thing: if you try and walk this very thin line, you cannot walk that thin line. It's very hard to manage an injury and train at the same time because you can't train effectively. And look, it is going to take you a long time. I mean, it's going to take you a long time to lose fitness. You're not going to lose fitness in a week. You're honestly not going to lose hardly anything in 2 weeks. You have to start pushing beyond that to lose fitness. Now, are you going to lose sharpness? Yeah, you're going to lose a little sharpness, but that comes back very quick. There is no amount of base fitness you're going to lose in a week or two. I can promise you. There have been plenty of times during a marathon training or something where I've taken a whole week and a half off because I could feel a problem coming on. And it's a whole lot better to slam on brakes, take the time off, and come back because I promise you, you're not going to lose that much fitness. Like I said, from an endurance standpoint, you're not going to lose anything. The only thing you might lose a little bit of an edge, but I promise you will not regret it, because the worst case scenario is here, and I don't even love the elliptical machine. That is a weight bearing exercise, and depending upon the on the calf too, I'm not a big fan of the bike if you're struggling with the calf. I think you should take some time off, and it is not going to hurt you to take some time off. And let it completely heal, because I guarantee you the hardest things to get to heal are any of the muscles. And so if you've got a calf strain at all, I generally don't like to mess with those periods. So if you take some time off, I can promise you it is not going to hurt you. And in fact, what it probably will do, you'll come back fresher and harder. So I did that with my son who's running cross country. He suffered something the other day in his hamstring, and so I had him take, I guess it was 4 or 5 days off, and just say, hey, just no running practice this week. And he came back this last Saturday and had a tremendous race, and just finished a couple seconds behind first place, and that was without any training all week. So you'll be very, very surprised if you take you some time off. You'll come back fresh, I promise you.
That's good. Take the time off. All right, and then our last question. I feel like this might have been a theme I just saw popping up in the group. But do you have any tips? Actually, let me start. Do you have any tips for running with your kids? I think it was kind of the time management. Like, how do you balance having kids in your running goals? I know you run a lot with your kids.
Mm-hmm. So. I do run a lot with my kids. So I've got, I'll set the table. I've got a 13-year-old and I've got a 9-year-old. The 13-year-old, he's getting quick. That's all I've got to say about that. In fact, we were talking a little competition at the dinner table last night. But so it's easy to run with him. That one is simple. The one that has been challenging is the 9-year-old, because he started running actually about 3 years ago. But here's what we didn't do. We just didn't start out and say, hey, you need to start running for 2 or 3 miles. I think a good way to do it is to introduce running softly. So we started doing a lot of activities. In fact, if I'm coaching cross country, we're only going to do a little bit of running to start with, and I'm going to confuse them and make them think that we're having fun, but in reality is we're running. So
I'm going to confuse you into exercising.
Exactly.
I got to do that to myself now. Just trick myself into doing something.
Yeah, go play ultimate frisbee.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of cross country teams do.
Yeah,
they'll go play ultimate frisbee. Smart. They'll play dodgeball. They'll play tag. They'll play all these things that they don't even think is interval training, and it's interval training. Oh, yeah. So that's what's funny. My boys get down there like, oh, all we did today was we did easy run. And they're like, well, we did 30 minutes of ultimate frisbee. I'm like, yeah, you also did sprinting. Then is what you did. You just didn't realize it. So I think being able to find their common interest is great. I'll give you another one that is fantastic. I know a lot of soccer players who are great runners. Mm-hmm. So being able to do something like soccer, don't think that you're not getting in endurance. Trust me. Soccer is a great, great sport. I would find ways to do it. Then once you do, I think you just have to get creative out on the road and say, find what they like. I've got one of my sons, my youngest son, he actually loves going to the track. So we go to the track and we're like, hey, that's where I'd like to run. So I'm like, okay, well, that's where we'll run. So we go to the track and we do stadium steps at the track and we do all kinds of stuff like that. So it's kind of finding what they like. You might have kids that might like running on the trail. You might have kids who like the track. You might have some who are, just like running on the roads. I think you have to find what works for them, but don't think that it just needs to be a 2 mile or a 3 mile run. I would say find a way to mix it up, and because I guarantee you they will love playing the frisbee. They'll love playing soccer. So I think finding a way to mix it in and then increase it each time. So, early on in the season, a lot of these kids will struggle from cross-country standpoint because they're trying to get their endurance training in, and then they'll get stronger and stronger. So the same thing. And I'll tell you the other thing I would recommend, sign them up for some kind of a race or take them to a race. If they experience the adrenaline shot and the excitement of a race, there's nothing quite like it. So, and if it's a small enough race and they have a chance to grab a medal or something like that, trust me, they're going to want to come back. So they're like, oh my gosh, that was fun. So I would say get them to where the excitement is. If it's just running, 2 to 3 miles a day and them not experience any excitement, that's when they may be like, but if they go experience the excitement of a race, I guarantee you that quick exposure will get them excited about doing it again.
That's good. So I'm going on a bike ride on Saturday with the guy in the office, and I think we might intentionally get lost just because we have to
a
ride
great
further to
idea.
get back. So
Why not?
if you're out running with your kids, just get them lost somewhere.
Get
So
lost.
Drop them off. Like
You could do that.
like hazing in college. Like you drop
do
somebody off
that.
and just don't announce that. All right. So yeah, have some fun with you guys, kids. And let us know, as always, ways that you guys are running and having fun with the kids.
Absolutely.
So good stuff. All right. So we're going to wrap it up here. And we actually have some comments coming in about the strangest things we've seen eaten. One person had a chili dog, at the LA Marathon, or they saw it. Quote unquote, someone. No, that's good. And then Chelsea, the Krispy Kreme 5K. We had a guy in our office. If you guys ever remember Brian Elder, I think he was on the podcast a few times. He did our like local Krispy Kreme. I don't even know what it was called. But if you guys haven't heard of it, you basically run half a 5K. You eat 12 donuts and go the rest of the way through. Brian was like this wasn't a big race, maybe 200. He was in like 4th or 5th coming into the eating section. And Brian can eat like crazy.
Yeah,
like he's a very fast eater.
Yeah.
And so he got into it. And the deal was you had to like eat all the donuts or have them in your mouth before you went off running. And so he was like, he left the spot, I think in 2nd or 3rd. And the guy in front of him still had like a donut in his mouth, but Brian was done because he ate fast. And he's like, all right, I got him. So he just sprinted and the guy couldn't breathe. And so he killed him. Going up and he had this sweet donut trophy in our office for a long time. The donut wouldn't stay on it. So
that's crazy.
I also did that race, but only ate half of them. Because I said I was training for something, and I had to have this huge like red like X, meaning that I didn't like eat all the donuts. So I was like the scarlet letter of
that's
everyone
exactly
else did
right.
it. But
that's exactly right.
Yeah, let us know that as well if you guys have eaten some crazy stuff.
Have you eaten anything crazy besides donuts?
Gosh, I mean I've had pretzels. That's not crazy.
Yeah.
I've wanted just to stop and eat, like just be done. I've talked about before like ordering pizza while I'm running, and I've thought about picking up the pizza while I'm running, but I haven't done that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gregory just dropped in. He said that he has a local relay called the Hoggin' and Joggin'. Gosh, they have to scarf down. I'm guessing barbecue food. That sounds like. That's really funny. Oh, burritos, cupcakes, and pizza.
Oh wow.
That just sounds horrible, but really funny to watch.
That is.
That's good. Well, guys, we're going to sign off here. But before we do, I want to let you guys know, as always, we have a page set up if you guys are interested in coaching or getting some advice. We don't take sponsors on the podcast, but it does cost us a little bit to put this out. So if you guys head over to connectrunclub.com/Patreon, you can check out some different ways to support us from as little as $2 a month all the way up. If you guys like what we're doing and you find value in it, we'd appreciate the support so we can keep on doing it. But as always, we just appreciate your support through your ears, and we have a blast chatting with you each week. And if you like it, you can also hit subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. So
if you like it, maybe we'll set off a rocket one day. We have rockets. We've actually set off rockets here.
We need to do it inside. I should get the helicopter working again and fly it inside here.
Idea.
So, all right, guys. Well, we'll be back next week or next Tuesday with another interview, and next Thursday with another Q&A with Coach Trey. And until then, run connected.